Hey folks, and welcome to the latest installment of Dave's Impressions. This time around, Gremlins Inc. These impressions were taken from playing the game for around 2 hours. Enjoy! Gremlins Inc. is a digital board game about the acquisition of resources and the screwing over of all other players in pursuit of said resources, cozying up to industry and making use of the power of political office and the wealth of it to get even further ahead, all in the world of Gremlins. It's important to set goals in Gremlins Inc. like any board game, but not long-term goals. So much can change in a single turn. The turns themselves move quickly. The games themselves move quickly, in fact. Most games aim for around 30 minutes. Of course, it does depend on how many players you have in these games and what you set the win condition as. The way the board is set out is there's industry tiles, and each of them allows the player to accomplish specific tasks. Whether it's exchanging one resource for another, losing a turn to gain a benefit, or screwing over another player. It's worthwhile to know the benefits your character gains from specific industry tiles, and if any of the cards you have are linked to those tiles. It means that a player needs to become familiar with the board layout in order to adapt to the changes that will occur each time a turn ends. One of the changes the player needs to adapt to are the cards themselves. These cards reward resources or abilities if certain conditions are met. These conditions usually consist of traveling to the right industry tile and paying the price on the card. But another reason why it's not great to make long-term plans around your cards is that the same cards are required to move around the board. They have faces of dice on them, so you have to sacrifice your cards in order to move. It means the player is always making hard choices. Now, while you need to use cards to move, navigation itself is quite dangerous because there are very few safe spaces on the board. There are risk tiles where if you roll a 1 you gain a penalty. There are cop tiles with similar risk, and there are bribe tiles that take your cash. There are tiles that give you money, but they are few and far between. It's not a great boon like passing go in Monopoly either. It's a sprinkle of cash, something to help you survive the next bribe or risk tile. This is why in my early games I tried as hard as I could to become the governor, to win the elections by gaining enough influence. The reason is that one of the benefits of being governor is that the cops no longer harass you and you don't have to pay any of the bribes. This makes moving around the board stress-free. In the final game I played, I had 5 opponents instead of 2. This meant that the fight to become governor became a lot more heated, and I was no longer able to easily achieve that goal. Due to the bribes, the cops, and the risks, it should be evident that if you have a lot of money, it makes things significantly easier. Fines are a mere annoyance instead of a worry, but most importantly is that the prices on the cards to gain the resources in order to win the game are now in your grasp. Pursuing your goals won't clean you out. Choosing your character is important as well, as every character has game modifiers attached to them. They are associated with different industry tiles, so they gain perks from visiting them or are more geared to a style of play that aligns with a specific industry tile. If there's a benefit for having a lot of the malice resource, I could never figure it out. Same with the jail, where the longer you spend in prison, the greater your reputation. I got sent to prison far too often. It was easy for other players to use a card to send me there, or it just seemed to happen as a matter of course. You know, half the time when I was watching the turns play out, I really had no idea what was happening. Part of that, of course, is my amateur status of not knowing the game, but I think it's just the nature of play. I said make short-term plans, because it seems that at the end of every single turn, the balance of power has shifted. There's rarely firm rock beneath your feet. I mean, I did get to execute a long-term plan because the cards were laid out in such a way that I was able to gain a great advantage over the other players, but the downside of having pulled off that plan is that suddenly I was the target of everyone. Now, in a lot of these types of games, if you played Settlers of Catan or Munchkin or even Monopoly, it's very easy to hold a grudge against another player when you feel hard done by. Here in Gremlins Inc., where it's so much more blatant about how beneficial it is to screw over the other players, I found it really doesn't benefit the player to hold a grudge. If a player screwed me over, by the time I had a chance to get back at them, they were no longer in front, and it was much more beneficial for me to screw over the leading player rather than take revenge upon the player that did me a disservice. too much happens every turn, and they'll eventually get theirs anyway. So, should you play Gremlins Inc.? Well, I feel that I haven't done an adequate job of describing what the game is, although maybe this haphazard, confusing form of explanation works for it. I think part of the joy of the game is its ever-changing nature. If you like a board game where you have to constantly reevaluate where you're aiming and what to do with what you have, I think Gremlins Inc. will provide some great enjoyment whether you play it online with friends or against the computer like I was. Now perhaps you don't want a game where winning or losing is so open to chance. I think there is more than enough influence that a skilled player would wield to give themselves an advantage, but as an amateur player, the game feels chaotic. If you don't like that feeling when you're playing a board game, if you want to feel in control, you're probably not going to enjoy Gremlins Inc. As always, I would love to hear what you think about Gremlins Inc. down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, why not buy me a coffee? There's a link in the description. If you'd like to help me out in other ways, please like the video, share it on your favorite social media sites, or subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, I hope you're all having a wonderful day.